and you're in the camp defending the biological difference between men and women. It brings you into alliance with all sorts of people, doesn't it?
Well, it does, but then I guess there's this interesting question about exactly like where the line is between what we as gender critical feminists consider to be biological and what we consider to be cultural or sort of socialized. So I think we would probably end up having big disagreements with some of the traditionalists about sex, or the people who think that sex just is gender. There's a big fight there. The thing that really distinguishes us from the other radicals is that we believe in sex. There's a question about how much that means, right? Does it just mean female and male, these ones get pregnant, these ones don't? Or does it mean like innately disposed toward being more nurturing and compassionate and taking the carer jobs? All of that is up for discussion. The disagreement, I think, is really over like, is there such thing as sex? And should we keep basing our feminism on and around it?
Well, I like the way you frame it. All of that is up for discussion, except not according to the people who oppose you, who want to cancel you. I mean, let's talk about your complaint against the university now. It's mostly about the anonymous campaign calling you a fascist and a bigot. We've only just met, but I can safely say that you're neither of those things. And it calls it calls for a boycott of your classes. Now, what's it like to be a lecturer at a university where the contest of ideas is meant to be open and intense and the best idea wins? What's it like to be a lecturer or an academic at a university where that is no longer acceptable?
Yeah, I mean, there is a sense in which this disagreement is happening like in parallel to my teaching rather than inside my teaching. My students are great, and we are proceeding as normal, having all the kinds of difficult and challenging discussions that we have always had. These are people outside of philosophy who don't like know anything about or respect the norms of philosophy, who have a very militant idea about what feminism should be like, or that they think that they are kind of in possession of the absolute truth somehow at age 22. They're the ones that are trying to shut things down, right? They're the ones kind of making these extremist demands that other students boycott my class because someone who thinks feminism is for females is not fit to teach feminism, right? But there's a sense in which these are just like ludicrous demands coming from ludicrous activists.
So where are they coming from, Holly? If they're not in the faculty, in the philosophy department, where are they coming from?
Well, I suspect some of them aren't even part of the university. So that's part of it. And the others are coming from gender studies. So the articles in the Age at the weekend interviewed at least one person who claims not to have been involved in this current poster campaign, but has been involved in making complaints against me and my teaching in the past. And that person was identified as being a gender studies student. And I think there's associations with people in the kind of Pride in Action network and the University of Melbourne Queer Students Association. And again, these are just people who subscribe to this particular ideology about sex being a social construction and anyone being whatever they want to self-determine or self-identify as being. And I just disagree with that.
Well, let me quote from, it might be the same student, a trans student was quoted in The Age on the weekend saying, here's the quote, "Dr. Lawford-Smith fundamentally doesn't believe in hearing out trans people, in considering their safety or having them in public life." Now, Holly, would you agree with that statement?
Absolutely not. And also, I just think it's wild. Like, I know that the newspaper had to get a range of viewpoints, but it's wild that a student can just invent claims that are absolute lies and for which there is no evidence, and then have those claims kind of disseminated in the public sphere. I mean, where is the evidence that I don't want trans people to exist in public life? Where is the evidence I don't care about their safety? I mean, these are all just, I think, fantasies and projections, and I wish people would stop projecting them onto me.